Sonny Bill.
Live.
And we're live. We're into it. We're going. We're rocking. Can we have a little bit of the haka in the cans if we get a little bit, if you can do it? Hello, good evening, New Zealand and the world. Welcome, it's my radio voice. Welcome along to the second ABs, watching the ABs here in the Department of Conversation. Josh Ioane with us tonight. Josh, thank you so much for joining us.
No worries.
Good to be with you. Come right into that mic, mate. Right. We can take it back to you. Take it right back to you in your face. Yep. So it's right up against your face. Yep.
Testing.
Yep. And Paul Cuddy from stuff.co.nz, thank you as well.
How you going?
Yeah, so a lot of fun. Now, Josh, thank you so much for coming in. Now, for people who aren't aware, you're still currently playing with Otago. Big game this weekend. So you're going to give us a little bit of time and then you're going to shoot off for early training tomorrow.
Yeah, that's the one. Game this weekend and preparations tomorrow. So first half, half time might look to.
Yep, dude. Look, the last thing I would want is for a news item to come out going, you know, Josh Ioane off his game this weekend. Big night win. So please, as a Otago fan as well, we want you there. We want you going. And so the game is kicking off. If you are joining us along the podcast, you can see us and get our thoughts and views and opinions and whatever else you want on Facebook, on YouTube. We're going to Twitch tonight, I'm assuming. Yep, going to Twitch tonight as well. And we're just going to hang out for the first half, check out what's going on, and then Paul, me and you probably stay here for the second half till the end of the game to watch us break the 100.
Yeah, it sounds good. I think it's going to be 70 points to 6 tonight.
70 points to 6. Yeah. Do you got okay? You are a current All Black. You played what? Was it 3 weeks ago against Tonga?
Yeah, roughly.
Yeah, about them.
Roughly.
Buzz of your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think it's more when you're in the moment, you don't really realise until you're away from the team and how much it actually.
So was it kind of looking back on it, was it more like, holy crap, what did I just do? Or was it beforehand going, holy shit, what am I about to do? Which was bigger?
Yeah, beforehand. So when I was first named, obviously, that was a huge moment for me. And then going into camp and doing that stuff was really good. And then, but I don't think I appreciated it until I was actually away from it. Then I actually realised how,
So if people are tuning in with us, because obviously everyone watches different signals and it's all synced up, we're seconds away from kickoff. So if you want to watch along with us, kickoff looks like it's happening in probably the next 15 seconds. So we got I guess you'll be the perfect person to ask this, Josh. The Bowden Barrett, the fullback, and the Richie Mwanga, the first five, that's carrying on through. I'm assuming that Hansen wants to absolutely nail that group down before the semis and the quarters. That's why even in these easier games they're playing. And that's kickoff, just so you know timing.
Yeah, I think that's exactly it. I think they've been saying we haven't seen the finished result, and I think in these games it's a perfect opportunity for the boys to keep growing, and they're doing really well, so I'm excited to see how they go. Yeah,
and how would they be treating this game? I mean, you were in the changing rooms a few weeks ago. Mm-hmm. You know, what would they be thinking about at the start of this game? What would be the words in the shed?
I know the boys, they have high standards no matter who they're playing, and I know they'll come into this game with you can tell straight away, you know, the intent there, the physicality, you know, the way they're moving the ball, the way they're carrying, you know, there's a lot of intent there. I can see that they've come in with the right mindset that they want to play, they want to pull trigger.
It's interesting to see who, like TJ starting, Perenara.
Yeah. You
can see it looks like that who they are still trying to allow to get right, like the first five fullback combination. But obviously Aaron Smith, number one halfback, so TJ can come in. The places that are also sort of pre-selected. Would that be fair, Paul, do you think?
Yeah, I think so. Looking at the team tonight, I'm probably looking at two players that maybe can push on. We're talking about the quarters. That would be Jack Gucci and also Rico as well. Rest of the team, I think that they're obviously keep them sharp and the rest. But in terms of the first 15, the guys that can crack the team for the quarters, I think that man there, Jack Gucci, and Rico, this is their big opportunity tonight.
Now, did Jack Goodhue get injured in one of the games, and or was he not selected in the last few?
He got injured against the Wallabies in Perth to the hamstring, got cleaned out awkwardly, and I think they've been pretty careful about bringing them back because obviously that sort of injury, you need to be explosive. To me, he's still the best centre in New Zealand, and the question that they have to answer is, what are they going to do with Anton Leonard-Brown, who is the informed centre in New Zealand? do they pair those two guys together, even though they're quite young? Potentially, I'd like to see it. It's very exciting. But yeah, I think Goodhue's probably still very close to their thoughts.
Do you think he is if everyone's 100% fit and 100% in form, let's put it that way, is Goodhue the starter in the final? Yeah, assuming it's hard to say this in front of a guy who potentially could be there. I mean, most people would say if there's but you know what I'm saying. But if he was 100% fit, would he be the guy, the boy?
I think he is. I think he's the best distributor as a centre in New Zealand. I'd love to be a winger playing outside him, especially in the right wing, because he's a left-sided player. And that means he distributes beautifully off his left hand. And I just think Goodhue's form the last 2-3 years has been exceptional. And he's a big fella as well. He's deceptively big. He's he's strong, carries well, and he's defends superbly too. He's got it everything really. Josh, you played against him as well. I mean, what's he like to play against in Super Rugby?
Yeah, awesome skills. Physically really sound, defense and tech, and I think it's a really good competition that they've got there. I think they've both talked about how it's been really helpful and really driven them throughout the Super season and leading into the All Blacks.
That's one of the things I noticed from outside, looking at the All Blacks and that midfield unit. They all seem to be really tight. I mean, obviously they all want to play, but they all seem to be good mates and pushing each other in the right way. Is that something you find when you went into the camp as well?
Yeah, I think I definitely saw that. Healthy competition. I felt like that was the vibe, and they were all happy to see each other do well. But also that slight edge to it at the same time, we're pushing each other to be better than the other. So I think it was good.
You have to be competitive, though, don't you? I mean, you don't get to that level unless you've got that competitive edge. So I'm sure that's replicated throughout all the mini units at 10 as well, and 15. I'm sure, Richie and Bowden, although they're playing together, they're still pushing each other as well. And I think you see that all over the All Blacks. And that ability to put the team first, it's so important because everybody wants to play and everybody wants to play a big role, and if you don't get that right on a long World Cup campaign, it can cause problems. But I think they've got that right.
This must be a horrific thing for any team to look at. But 5 minutes out, All Blacks rum, the back line split even side. Oh, not quite. Oh, there we go. Yep, penalty or try? Try, must be. That's surely from an opposition point of view, that must be a terrifying thing to look at. Right, smack dab in the middle.
I think it's interesting what they did there. I mean, they had options left and right, and they've obviously went for the pushover scrum. That's probably one of the little things that the coaches are looking for in the game. Games like this can be hard to analyse because we don't know what they're looking for, but looking at that, that's a great opportunity to attack either way, but they've backed their big boys there, and I think they'll be happy with that result.
Yeah. That must have been, was that a penalty try?
Yeah.
We're not getting the penalty try, so that's just straight 7 these days. They don't kick anymore, do they? They go Sonny Bill straight up the middle. Sonny Bill Williams, freak of nature.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Athlete.
Yeah.
Massive.
Can do anything.
Strong.
As a young fella coming on board, who are the guys in the team that you kind of, I don't know, look up to? Is that the right words to use for teammates? But certainly, get alongside you.
Yeah, I guess. So growing up for me, I started off in league, so I definitely saw a lot of Sunnyville coming through his younger days.
Yep.
Playing, and so I think what I like about him was his mindset and his attitude towards the game.
Yep.
Real professional.
Yep.
So yeah, I admire that.
I'm just going to check with Tom here. Tom, how's our broadcast going? You see where audio is a smidge out of sync?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. We might have to restart the thing at some stage, but if we do that takes 10 seconds and we basically drop out and we kick back in again. If you are watching us or joining us on Facebook or YouTube, feel free to chuck some comments in there as well. We can add questions and comments along the way as we go. That's no problems at all. Paul, you've been watching footy for a while. You're a fan of this young guy that we've got in here?
Yeah, he goes all right.
Yeah?
I thought Josh should have been in the squad. We've talked about the two playmaker thing, and it just made sense to me to have your next best guy in the squad. I don't want to put Josh in an awkward situation here. Obviously, Jordy Barrett's gone there, and we've seen Jordy's a great player, very versatile, playing right wing tonight. But yeah, I just obviously number one, I think Josh is good enough, and two, I thought it fits more with the philosophy in terms of if you're going to be playing two playmakers, then why don't take your third best one with you?
Yeah.
I think Josh showed on his debut that he belonged in that environment, fitted in very well. I was interested to see in his debut as well. Ryan Crotty come up and shook his hand afterwards, and it was nice to see that older guy coming in and say, just a welcome to the club.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think Josh could easily deserve to be there. I've gone with Geordie, but that's footy, isn't it?
Did you know the situation for the Tongan game? Because at the last Rugby World Cup, they had Lima Sopawanga start in South Africa, and all of us were looking from the outside, idiots that we are, going, "Oh, he's off to the World Cup. He's off to the World Cup." And then they told us afterwards, they just wanted to make sure he could perform if needed. Did you know before Tonga that was sort of a similar sort of plan?
Yeah, I did. I knew that. I'd been called in. I'd been called before the naming, and I was told that I wasn't going to be travelling.
Yep.
But Richie had a niggle, and so they didn't want to use him against Tonga, and that I'd get an opportunity. And so I was grateful. I was able to get an opportunity. I was happy. I got to play and get my cap, and so I was just grateful.
And because you were on the bench in Argentina, is that right?
Yes.
And you didn't get on then?
Yes, that's correct.
Is that frustrating?
Yes and no. And no. It was a big week for myself, expecting to debut.
There we go. Here's the second try.
Yep.
Joey Barrett's easiest try ever.
Correct. Yeah, so over in RG, it was a big week. I had a lot of people messaging me, and there was a lot of emotions for myself. And then for it not to happen was, it was a tough pill to swallow. But these things happened, and I was able to move on from that.
Although from the outside looking in, it'd be interesting to get your take on this, Paul. From the outside looking in, an element of that to me kind of thinks, they still value the jersey. If there wasn't a reason to put you on, they didn't, not just going, he's here, let's give him the last 5 minutes and he'll get his cap. So that's kind of quite a nice thought as well. And you still got the cap, you still got the jersey that,
Yep.
So it's quite nice to see that might be a part of the process.
Yeah. I think after my debut in Hamilton, Hansen stood up and said, the jersey doesn't owe you anything, and that's something that Owen Franks was saying as well when he missed out. So I think they still have that attitude, you got to earn that. So that just makes my debut more special.
So tell me something, right? This is you in many a game. What are you thinking right now? What are you, 26, 27 metres out on the angle, probably a 30, 35 metre kick? What's going through your mind?
Yeah, I guess there's a lot of thinking before the game of how I'm going to feel, a lot of visualisation and thinking before the game. And so just getting to this moment, all I want to think about is just my process, and not try and drift away from that too much, and just think about my technique in striking the ball.
There you go, straight down the middle. Look at that, that's gorgeous.
Yeah.
Who's the best kicker in the team? Like out of the whole squad, who's the best kicker?
It's between Rich. I feel Richie's the best.
Yeah.
Kicker. Yeah.
So the right man for the right job.
Yeah.
You agree, Paul?
Yeah, I agree. I think Richie's not technically perfect, but I think he's mentally the strongest player in the squad. And if you look back to the Super Rugby final series, I think he kicked 17 straight in the final series. That tells me that he wants the big kicks, and that's more important than technique sometimes. And he's a very strong kid.
Yeah, I agree with that.
All right, let's just take a pause for 30 seconds. We're just going to restart the stream straight away. If you're watching or listening to us, don't go anywhere. We just have a bit of a missync with our audio. It'll literally be 15 seconds and we'll be back again. See you soon. Apparently the audio is just...
Score predictions for you, Pete?
I mean, they won't do 100, will they? I don't think they'll do 100. I mean, I wonder. I think 70 is probably a pretty good guess. I reckon. You said, what did you say?
76, 72-6.
Yeah, 76. No, they won't get 6 though, because that would imply two penalties. No, these guys are never going for a penalty. But so I'll say they'll get 1 try. But they'll miss the conversion. So Canada will get 5. I'll say 80 to 5. Yeah, 80 to 5 will be mine. What about you? Yeah. Are you allowed to do that as an All Black?
Yeah, I think they might be a bit wrong.
It must be hard. Are we by the way? Are we back in? We're back in. Okay, we're back in. It must be hard. Well, I should rephrase that. Is it hard, a game like this, or, you know, I remember back in the day watching Auckland play, you know, mid-Canterbury or something, actually treating them, not disrespectfully, but seriously? I mean, we can see that Japan can tip over in Ireland kind of thing, but you know, how do you take this as seriously as the quarterfinal, for example, as a player?
For this game?
Yeah. When you're a massive favourite, like a massive
So
favourite.
would the Tonga game be similar for you in terms of being favourites?
Yeah, totally. I think Tonga and Canada are probably. I think Tonga will probably be a bit more serious than Canada, actually.
I think during that week, I think I learned a lot about the mindset these boys take into games.
Right.
I think Hansen drove the mindset that week that around standards, around preparation. You know, and I think it was huge leading into the game. And I think it showed. You know, the amount of points the boys scored. I think that came down to the mindset, and I can see the way the boys are playing. There's a lot of intent and, you know, taking this game very seriously, and they're trying to get something, achieve something out of it.
Josh, when you talk about the standards there, and Hansen mentioned it, is there a group of leaders within the team that drive that as well? Some of the guys that have been there a bit longer?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, your Kieran Reeds and Dane Coles, you know, they're big on it, and they live by it as well, and you can see it. It's evident when you're in camp. And
do they show it as well? Are they like your typical first on the training field, last off the training field kind of guys?
Yeah, and like, you know, a lot of questions, you know, a lot of detail, not just physically, but a lot of mental work's put into the game.
Yeah. I was going to ask you as well, I said this before the broadcast, the haka at the start of the game, now that the All Blacks have two of them, how's that decision made? Who decides what it's going to be, kapa or kamate?
Yeah, I think before the game, leading up into the week, I think Kieran Reid and TJ have a little chat, and they talk about it, because for that Tonga game, I actually didn't know kapa or ponga, and I got to the captain's run where they practice it, and I said to TJ, what haka are we doing? And he said, and I asked him who decides, you know, and he said that they have a little chat, him and Rita have a little chat, and they decide.
Oh, Sonny Bill, see that offload. I don't understand. Maybe as a journalist you can shed some light, Paul, but I don't understand with the Sonny Bill kind of, you know, you either love him or you hate him. He's a sublime athlete. You just see it. I don't know how people can dislike his play.
Yeah, he's a funny one, isn't he? He's just one of those players that's always split people. And I lived in Australia for 14 years, so I saw his league career grow up, and it was the same there. And when I think probably the big event in his career, and he looked back on it, and he probably thinks he did not the wrong thing.
Going to France?
Carried it out in the wrong way, and people have got long memories, and that stuck with him. And I think that's a shame. I think he's clearly grown up. As we all do, as you get older, and he's got kids now, and I think he's a changed guy. He's a lot more mature, and I think the way he's conducted himself this year in particular has been superb, and I think he's probably won over a lot of people, but you'll never win over everybody, and that's just the nature of people.
He's short. No try, TJ. I don't think. What do you think?
No try.
Bit short. So if you're it's tough to talk about you getting called to Japan, because if you were to get called to Japan, obviously it means someone's gone over, and nobody wants that for anyone. But equally, I'm sure you'd love to be there. From a kind of teammates point of view, who would be the best? Who would be the worst roommate for you? Who do you want to be sleeping with and not sleeping with?
Who would I not want to be sleeping with?
Those big front row forwards would be tough, wouldn't they?
Oh, there was one guy that was known for storing there. I forgot who it was. I'm looking at Atu here.
Yeah,
I think. I think I might have stitched him up here, but I think Atu might be the culprit of that one.
Do they do that as well? Do like the management decide who's rooming up together if that is still the way they do it? Like they put someone like you who's new to the thing with a more senior player, bring them along, or do the guys just go, mates, we'll go together?
I think it's management have a little discussion. They talk about it. My first weekend in Argentina, I was rooming with Bodie, so I was able to learn a lot of him. Oh,
that makes sense, doesn't it? So first fives together, talking tactics.
Yeah, that's the one.
Because how old's Bowden Barrett? He's late 20s, mid 28? Because he's still, you look at when people go to the Northern Hemisphere and play, he's still got 10 years of professional rugby in him if he wanted to. Mm-hmm. But, what is he, World Player of the Year 2 years in a row?
Yeah.
It must be amazing to sit with someone at that level and just absorb.
Yep. And real nice guy, real laid back.
Yep.
Real down to earth guy, and I enjoyed rooming with him. No snoring.
No snoring.
Although I did get sick over there, and I had the cough, and was sleeping early in the morning, and I was trying not to cough, but other than that, come on, team.
It's interesting to hear, and I guess I think about it from a business point of view or a work point of view. This is a game, but it's also a profession. It's your job, and I think about Paul. When I just said before about taking this kind of game seriously, I guess no matter what you do with a job, if you've got an easy day at work, quote unquote easy day at work, the best kind of most professional performers in any of their jobs take all of those days as seriously as the hard days at work.
I just don't think the All Blacks switch off, and that's why they've been at the top for so long. And I give you an example. Josh will be able to help me out with this one. They went and played the Highlanders went and played the
Booyah.
Good try by Sunnyville.
Sunnyville scores.
The Highlanders went and played the Sunwolves in Tokyo this year, and the game was over as a contest after about half an hour, but they didn't let the foot off the pedal for the whole game. And I know when they came back, they were pretty proud of that performance. So you've got to understand that no matter who their teams are playing against, the coaches and the players will want to see something out of the game.
Yeah,
and that's the way they look at it. And it doesn't really matter about the scoreline, but they'll have set things that they want to achieve out of this game, and they'll want to see certain things from individuals out of this game. So they'll mark this game as hard as they mark the Springboks game. So it just never let up. And Josh mentioned about standards. That's standards right there.
I think also level of competition in this team.
I was thinking
picking the starting 15 for the finals is hard enough, so I think a lot of boys are trying to put their hand up and put on a good performance, so they'll be looking to do that.
Yeah, I was just thinking as Paul was talking, if the culture of the team is go hard for 80, if someone tails off after 60 or 50 and there's someone else in the wings who's happy to go hard for 80, you don't want to lose your spot, do you?
Exactly.
Do you remember, so you've been how many years with the Highlanders?
2.
And under Lima for the first one?
Yeah.
Was he still here?
Yeah.
So this is your first year kind of starting first 5?
Yeah, so
running the show?
I did injury replacement and before my first year signed the whole year. So and I learnt off Lima and Banksy then, and then I came in as my first year signed and did a year with Lima, and then obviously he left.
Are you still new enough into the professional game that things happen and you kind of go, geez, this is pretty choice? Like things that excite you, and like I can imagine like signing your first contract or running on in your first game, all those things will be big. Are you still young enough in the game to still be kind of wide-eyed at times?
Yeah, I think I'm really young in the game. I mean, coming into this year was my first year wearing the team jersey for the Highlanders, so I think there's still a lot for me to experience and learn. So I'm looking forward to it.
Do you ever get to connect with I think of the Grant Foxes of the world, the people who were, the legendary first fives and playmakers of the last 30 or 40 years. Does that ever happen in the kind of culture?
Yeah. There's a lot of what should I say, old boys.
Well, I guess Foxy's a selector, isn't he? So he makes sense. But yeah.
Yeah. So there are a lot of old boys. It's interesting. After the game in Hamilton, I was actually had Rico Gear come up to me and talk to me, and I was.
Rico, really?
Yeah,
still looking as shiny as ever?
Yeah, still looking sharp. And actually my girlfriend was with me, and she started talking to him, and then he walked away, and I said to her, do you know who that is? She was like, no, I don't know. That's disrespectful.
Are you a fan of rugby? Like you're a young man.
Yeah.
When I was here with Case last time, we talked about rugby from the 70s and 80s. It was easy because that was sort of, we were around. Are you a fan of rugby? Are you a historian of rugby to some degree? Do you know and understand and remember and know of the stories of the legendary players sort of thing?
Yeah. Yes and no. Growing up, like I said before, I was big leaguey, big Warriors fan, growing up. And then it wasn't until I got to high school that I started really getting into rugby, and probably since around then I know a little bit around that. But before that, when I was younger, there was a lot of Warriors games and on my weekends, going to watch those and stuff.
Where did you go to high school?
King's College in Auckland.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so from Auckland originally. So
Yeah.
Warriors were actually from Kings. Warriors on the back doorstep almost, aren't they?
Yeah.
In the same ground. So attended the games, followed the players.
Yeah, a lot of that. I was a huge fan.
Was there ever any interest from Warriors or league clubs sniffing around when you were
there was a bit of interest, but nothing that was ever confirmed or nothing sound. So yeah, but I was interested in a little bit of league coming through.
So do you? I mean, you're obviously under contract for New Zealand Rugby.
Yeah.
But have you got? I'm assuming have you got an agent yet, or are you?
Yeah.
So you've got all that already sorted. Sorry, I don't mean to. That's not a patronising question. You just wonder when that happens in the process.
Yeah.
Do they still approach? Is there offers coming through? If people know you're an ex-leaguey, surely they go. I mean, I think about people like Daryl Halligan and fullback for the All Blacks. What's his name? Mark Ellis's mate. It's just jumped out of my head. Ex-rugby players. Matthew Ridge.
Yeah.
Were the legendary kickers
Yeah.
and brought a whole new element to rugby league.
Yeah.
Someone like yourself must be an attractive prospect to the league world.
I do.
Not to try and sell you off.
Yeah.
You know, if Hanson's listening, he's not. But
I do like to watch the little bit of league. Is the grand final or something?
I think so. I believe that the
Roosters,
green machine got
Raiders.
through.
Yeah.
I know because a friend of mine who's a supporter was all over their Facebook page the other day.
Yeah, I do like enjoy me a bit of little league, but don't get really many offers or anything interest coming through.
How long is your contract? What are you signed to for the rugby?
2 more years.
2 more years.
Yeah, so 2 more years.
So what is it, like a 4-year, 3-year?
Oh yeah, it just ranges. It's different from player to player.
Right,
so
right.
yeah, especially those young boys.
Yeah, you're not a young boy anymore.
Nah,
You're a seasoned veteran now.
I do see a few articles saying I'm a young buck, but 24, pushing 25 next year. You know.
Ugh, pushing 25.
there you go.
Paul, it's pushing 25.
Oh, he's finished.
Walker's
isn't he?
coming out, mate. So what brought you down here? What brought to Otago? Was it just for rugby, or were you studying, or
From Canada.
here comes their 5 points? Here comes their 5 points. That's not releasing very well, is it? No. The ball's free, son. Pass it. Oh.
Pick.
This is the part of the podcast where we go silent because we're watching the rugby.
Especially seeing a Canadian 5-pointer.
Yeah. So what brought you to Otago? What was the
so coming to Otago, there's a university here, which is non-negotiable for my parents.
Right.
And also the Otago Academy. So it seemed just like a win-win, and it made sense that coming down, get out of the house. I was real keen to get out of the house and sort of be independent.
Yep.
So yeah, it just made sense and enjoyed it.
You mentioned your parents, or Josh, about
Yeah.
wanting you to get an education.
Yeah.
How big of a influence have they been on your life as a whole, I suppose?
Yeah, on my life, really huge. Mum and Dad have been pushing me since I was young. I was playing all sorts of sports, as a kid, and then it's just carried on until how I am now. So
I think I saw some photos of you with your parents after the Hamilton game. They just must have been super proud. Did they get emotional, or are they not ones to show that? Or
my mum got emotional, and apparently my dad did, but he's not one to show. But I hear he did.
Heard rumours.
Yeah,
heard rumours.
It was sad for my mum because she flew all the way to RG to watch the game, but obviously didn't play, and then wasn't able to make it to the Hamilton game. So,
no.
Yeah, so that was a real shame. But she was proud, and at least she got to watch the haka and stuff live in RG.
What about the rest of the whānau? Your brothers, sisters, siblings?
Yeah, 2 sisters in Auckland, and 1 little brother that lives down here with me.
Yeah.
And yeah, they were over the moon as well.
So little brother down here studying?
Primary school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
cool.
young, yeah.
Oh, very nice.
What school does he go to?
Tainui Primary School.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. So hopefully set him up in the rugby clubs.
Yeah, so how old's he?
9.
Wow.
Yeah.
And he lives here with you?
Yeah, and my mum.
Oh, your mum's here as well?
My mum's moved down now as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so it's It's good to have some family down. I came down as a student, flatting.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's good to have some family down here.
Come right into that. That's all right. So you got your mum, your little brother, and yourself.
Yep.
All living down here now. I'm assuming all living together then, flatting together, and flatting is the right word.
Yeah.
This is the replay, isn't it? Yes, replay. Yeah. Right. That looked like he was well over the ball there, Mr. Barrett.
I don't know if he's legal there or not, but it just shows you what a good defender he's become. His ability to read which way players are going is probably second to none, and of course his pace as well. I know he probably didn't choose to go to fullback, but I think it's making him an even better player.
Is the speed that he had in the last World Cup? I mean, and then the following years from that. Do you reckon that's still there as is? Does he tape it off as like a teeny bit? Because there were sometimes it looked like he was running with intermediate school kids. That was the difference in speed.
I still think he's got it. I think the years that you were referencing, he had one of those years, 2016, where every time he kicked the ball, the ball bounced up into his hands. Yeah. That doesn't happen every year, and I think it just made him look supernatural. I think he's still got the speed. I think a try that he set up against South Africa in Wellington for Goodhue that he burnt the guy on the outside. I think it's all still there, and I know that one of the reasons that they were keen on this dual playmaker thing was that they didn't feel as if they were getting enough from fullback beforehand. That's one of the reasons. That it wasn't just I think we need a better number 10. It was like we're not getting the spark we need at fullback from before. Because if you think of those 2 years, we played Geordie there and they played Ben Smith there. But
what about the name just jumped out of my head from Waikato, got injured.
Damien McKenzie.
Yeah, McKenzie. Damo.
Yeah.
Now, if he was fully healthy, he's physically quite small though, but like a whippet, just unbelievable. He always breaks 2-3 tackles.
He's funny. Like when you meet him in person, he's one of those guys that actually you don't come away with the impression that he's small, and he's one of those guys that uses his body very well.
Yeah.
And Josh knows 2 guys that are tagged with the same, Vilamoni Karoi and John Nareki, and. I was speaking to Michael Collins about them last week before the Shield Challenge, and I said, they're not big guys, but he said, strong. They're just strong. They use their bodies well, great balance, accelerate in the contact. So it's not all about size. If you look at body weights on a player's list, it can be quite deceptive, I find, when you meet them.
When you say the excitement from fullback, though, that wasn't there, he's a pretty dynamic player, McKenzie. If he hadn't have been injured, do you reckon we still would have seen this iteration?
No, I think they would have stayed with Bowden at 10 and Damien at 15. I think that's the way they would have gone. Wouldn't have been my choice. I've been a big Wanga fan for 2-3 years now, but I think they probably would have stuck with Damien and Bodie.
So you think Bowden, I know there's this pivot position of having 2 playmakers, but just looking at the skill set, the actual position of fullback, do you think Bowden Barrett is a better fullback than a Ben Smith?
Yes.
Yeah? So best man for the job. So that, for a long time, and we talked about this last time with Case, for a long time there was cries of the best fullback in the world is playing wing, having Ben Smith on the wing constantly.
I'm going to get kicked out of Dunedin for saying that.
But that's not the case anymore. Not the best fullback in the world, obviously.
I think Bowden's a better fullback than Ben Smith is at the minute. You asked me 2 or 3 years ago, might have been a different answer.
Yeah.
But he's 33 years old. You don't get any faster when you're 33.
But that's amazing. I mean, you think the average winger is kind of like 24 to 28, and then Savi is a perfectly good example. They lose that one step of speed. That seems to be their golden age. But Ben Smith, legendary, early 30s, still going. Legendary.
It's incredible. But if you remember back as well, he had those concussion concerns. I think it turned out to be in our ear or affecting his balance. And I don't think he's been as strong under the high ball as he was in his prime. And all of these little things play into it. And don't get me wrong, he's one of my favourite ever players, but sometimes you got to make difficult decisions.
So if you are kind of joining us on Facebook or on YouTube live, remember this obviously is going to be a podcast as well, so you'll be able to listen to it afterwards. And when you listen to it afterwards, if you wanted to, you could sync it up with the game. We're exactly at 28 minutes. New Zealand 21-0, 28 minutes and 20 seconds to be precise. That's where the game is at. Actually, the last 10 minutes, Canada have come back a bit, haven't they? So they've made a couple of breaks, got close again now. Not doing so bad, comparatively speaking. You've been watching the other games, Josh? Like, have you been keeping an eye on the Rugby World Cup, or are you really focused on Otago?
Nah, not a lot of the games. Obviously, seeing the Japan-Ireland game. Thought there was. Yeah.
Did you actually see that live, or did you?
Oh, I seen a little bit.
Right,
You know, I was like, but I didn't see the full game. But I seen the boys playing really fast age of Japanese boys. I think it's a Tony Brown special. That's the way he likes to play, and so it was really good to see.
Rico. Sorry to be. This is a bit of a weird question, but there's any relation to Rico and
Rico? Nah. There's no relation.
No. I did actually Google that once and couldn't see it. Oh, you cheated.
But we.
You need to do 23andMe. So that thing. What did you think of the old Irish result there?
I was actually thrilled because I think Josh just touched on the way that Japan played was the way that I think the game should be played, and not about the collision but about skills and pace. And I think some of their ambition late in the game, they were attacking from inside their own 22, and I just love to see that. And there's a big Kiwi connection with Japan as well, which obviously shone through. But I thought it was absolutely fantastic for the tournament, and not easily, but the best team won. And
best team on the day.
If you want to grow the game of rugby, if you want to keep getting players of all sizes and shapes in it, you've got to make it a skill game, not a collision game. And I think that's what that showed. It
seemed a little bit what's the word? I don't know, but pointed that the Sunwolves would disappear just the year that they have. It's like they have the Sunwolves up until the Rugby World Cup. Now we've done the World Cup in your country. We'll kick this on. But now we're thinking, well, actually, why aren't these Japanese actual national side? Why don't we do something with the Quad Nations or something? And if that's how they can perform, if that's the level they can play at, as you say, we want the game to grow. It's got to be more than just every 4 years.
I'd love to see that happen, but on one condition that you bring in a Fiji as well to make it a 6-team tournament, because I think Islands rugby has been ignored for forever.
Do you think we can still have a Fiji, or do you think it should be like a Pacific Island nation?
No, I think it has to be Fiji.
Yeah. Why Fiji? You say Fiji over, for example, a Tonga or Samoa?
I think they're just a little bit further ahead in their programs, and they've got a bit more structure around it as well. I don't think they'd be very disappointed with that result against Uruguay, but I look at their squad and I think that's a squad that can compete. And the key thing is that you want a competition that attracts Fijian players back to play every year, and they don't get that. They play about half the number of games as Tier 1 teams do in between World Cups. Yeah. So that's it's a big hindrance.
I wonder as well, I heard a commentator not too long ago talking about the Six Nations and talking about one of the weaknesses of the Six Nation is you always have, and it's typically Italy, but a team there at the bottom who maybe doesn't compete most of the time. If it was more of a first tier, second tier, maybe there was 2 Six Nations, and then at the end the bottom from the Tier 1 plays the top from the Tier 2 and gives someone like a Georgia or someone else a chance to come up. I mean, a similar sort of thing. We've got New Zealand, Australia, South Africa, Argentina. Maybe the bottom from that should play another 4 nations, which might be Fiji, Japan, Samoa, Tonga, and then at least they get a chance to take a step up and move up through the ranks and, as you say, get more exposure and have the game grow. If we do want it to grow, though, looking in the corner, if we do want it to grow, which obviously rugby does, there we go.
Oh! No. Poor Scooty.
He's checking it. Why is he checking this? He just shook his head and said I didn't score it. He said he got a new nickname the other day, did Barrett, for that dive.
For this other dive.
What was it? What did you pick up what that name was?
Dog roll.
Dog roll, is that what it was? I wonder what this one's going to be then.
Yeah, he's going to have another one
poor
after
lad.
this one.
All right. So no try there. If you're going to grow the game, love the idea of bringing in the Pacific Islands to what we do. But if you're going to grow it, surely places like Asia and the Americas are the place you want to see it grow, where the numbers of people are.
Yeah.
Purely about growth of the game.
Yeah, potentially. I think one of the lessons from the Sunwolves is that if you're going to do it, you have got to get it right at the start. The irony about the Sunwolves is that although it seems a bit unfair that they've been booted out of Super Rugby now, they actually haven't won a lot of games, and the idea might have been good, but it wasn't implemented well, so that's hurt them. So no matter where you go, the execution has got to be really good, because you end up with a Sunwolves situation where, they did lose a lot of games, and didn't help them at all.
Yeah.
I think United States is interesting. I think played there for the Maldives in Chicago, and they got some athletes, They got some real athletes, and you can see them coming through the Sevens program as well.
Yep.
I think in a few years they're going to be one to watch.
There was an American commentator who basically said, if we played rugby, we'd be the best in the world. If our NFL guys played rugby, they'd be the best. I mean, you're a bit more than that, but you're right about the athletes, and there is also that attitude, It's like we are the best, like we will be the best. It's like, they're starting to do it with their soccer, their Major League Soccer. It's starting to drag some high-profile names across, and seems to be competing as a tournament on the world scale.
I just got to ask you a question about high tackles and all the rest of it. I mean, it's been a dominant thing in this World Cup. What I'm really interested in to find out is, what are the education levels that players get around high tackles? What are you told about what is legal, what's not legal, and the decision-making framework that's behind that?
So we have referees that come in, and when's the last one for me? Maybe the start of this year we had a referee come in, and he just explained the rules around the high tackle. I think have they been changing quite a bit? Or
They seem to have been, should we say, in my unprofessional opinion, interpreted a bit more differently of recent times.
Yeah.
Certainly when you look at, was it the Tonga game where going through the crash tackle made a slight amount of contact under the chin because of a fall, and that was considered a penalty, and all the spectators are going, what? So I think it would appear the interpretation has been different maybe rather than the rule change. Would that be fair, Paul?
Yeah, in May they brought out a decision-making framework for high tackles. I think it
sounds like it's come out of a nice bureaucracy, isn't it, that one?
And Reece Hodge, the Wallabies player, got sent off. Well, not sent off, he didn't get even penalised against Fiji, but then he was subsequently cited and given a 3-game ban. And the reason I asked Josh that was after that finding, in the finding it said the player didn't have an effective working knowledge of the decision-making framework. And I was actually in contact with somebody inside the Wallabies camp after that, and they said, look, Reece has gone in there. It's a legal setting. He's sweating bullets already because he doesn't want to be there. He's got QCs asking him questions. Of course he doesn't have a detailed knowledge of the decision-making framework. And I just wanted to know from a player whether they do, or it's just so much, well, don't hit somebody in the head. That's about as far as it goes.
I think it's a bit of both. If you ask me the detailed curriculum for high tackles, I probably couldn't tell. I could tell you probably a rough idea.
Which would be what? Give us the rough idea first.
So swinging arms to the head is yellow card.
Yep.
If it's because he's falling, so if it's because something to do with him that he's falling, then the penalty is reduced.
Yep.
No arms to the head, red card. If he's falling, they reduce it to a yellow.
Right.
So or just don't touch the head is the main.
It would seem at the moment the way that they're policing it here is if you touch the head at all, even inconsequentially, even in a fall, they're doing something about it.
Yeah,
that's 100%, and it doesn't need to be malicious at
No.
all. No, it's what they're doing is punishing poor tackle technique to make sure that the tackler is protected, because the tackler's more often than not the one who gets concussed.
The thing that it doesn't, I put this on my Facebook page the other night. The thing that unfortunately doesn't quite work if they're talking about consequential tackles was in that very same game. I've got a snapshot of a line out, another try. Bowden Barrett, 35 minutes in.
Beautiful kick there by, I think, Sonny Bill, was it?
Was that Sonny Bill? Gosh, he's trying to, the last kick he put in the international spotlight wasn't so great shot. So he's making up for that one. So that's Bowden Barrett under the black dot. Oh, yep, look at that. We'll see. How was the offside line there? Big brother, little brother. Nice. Anyway, I put this picture on my Facebook page. I took a snapshot of the game in the middle of the line out with the lock from one side going like this, and the head from the other guy was right there. So in every single line out where there's contesting, there is basically head contact. Yeah. So if you're going to have head contact at every level, you kind of can't ignore that, which is, and I'm not saying they should actually engage in that, but what I'm saying is it's not consistent if they're going to go for always head contact.
No, it's not, and that's the kind of worms that they've opened, and the people I feel sorry for is the referees, because I don't think referees, no referee I've ever met wants to send a player off.
Yeah.
They actually don't want to be the centre of attention. They're trying to avoid that. And they'll talk to the players beforehand about what they're trying to avoid and stuff. They do not want to send a player off, and this framework they've been given is designed to remove players from the field of play. So that's what they're wrestling with at the minute.
You would think that if you were going to design a framework, it would be let's design a framework to keep the players there. However that would look, rather than to get rid of them, because that, as you say, means the referee can be the deciding factor of a World Cup, for example.
Oh, well, he has been in a number of games, and I suspect the referee will continue to decide in a number of games, and that's the big gamble World Rugby has taken, and I don't think they're going to back down.
Yeah, it was interesting, the last one of these we did with South Africa with Case Muse here, and he was saying, I guess what every player would say is consistency is the most important thing. If they're gonna legislate, firmly against players, just do the same in minute 1 to the same as 79th minute, so at least the players have some kind of consistent understanding of what the rules for today are.
Yeah.
But it's those inconsistencies where you see complaints after the games. I like in rugby league, actually. Rugby league does the putting you on report. I quite like that. I think that could be quite a good thing for rugby. Also, the whole TMO getting involved at the moment with the, let's have a look and see if that was a dangerous tackle, slowing the game down. Put it on, no one's injured, no one's hurt, no one's down for the count. Put it on report. If we see it after the game, you're out for the next game.
And I think what's good with that is it saves, say, for example, a red card that could influence the game.
Yeah.
Do you think... that could have an effect on the game when maybe it doesn't need to?
I think a red card should be put in place, for example, if something's happened that so dramatically affected the game that if you weren't sent off, it was unfair to the other team. Let's say a swinging arm that knocked out a kicker for the other team. So in other words, such a bad thing happened that but if it was a swinging arm that hit someone, but then actually, it might have been foul play, but they were okay. That doesn't feel like a red card. I don't. You want it to be, but I guess you have to have rules as well, don't you? I'm talking out both sides of my mouth, as my mum would say.
No, I know what you're saying, though. I mean, I think it's been a long time since I've actually watched a dirty game of rugby where there's been genuine coat hangers.
Yeah.
Rugby league back in the early 2000s, State of Origin used to be just a fight with the ball in there somewhere. They've cleaned up their act and their viewership.
Well, everyone turned up for a fight in the game of rugby league broke out.
And everybody's got all the games going soft, league going soft, but their viewership figures now are higher than they've ever been.
Right.
So more people are watching it, more people are getting involved in it, and they've sorted it out. And I agree with Josh. I think the report system's superb.
Yeah.
I think it works really well.
Yep. We are basically, if you're in with us, at 40 minutes. At halftime, what we do is rather than sitting here and chatting whilst the rugby is not playing, is we'll do what we did last week, which is a little feature. Are we cool for the feature? Is the laptop all working? Yeah? Yeah? We'll see if it's working shortly. It's called Pat Watches the Internet. So there's halftime. Josh, what are your plans?
Yeah. Early morning training starts for us.
You're going to bail?
Yeah.
Look,
we should.
We are so thankful that you came in at any stage. Yep. It's great. Once the season's finished, once it's all over and done, we'll get you in for a proper podcast and have a good sit down, find out about life, the universe, and everything, is what we normally do. But it's been awesome to have you in. We don't want to hold you up. I'm an Otago fan. I don't want to make any decisions that might hinder that Shield defence this weekend. So we're kind of saying it's time for you to leave.
Nah, beauty, mate. Cheers for having me, man.
And look, good luck. If anything happens and you get across there, best of luck.
Cheers.
Thanks for coming in. Are you going to be cool to get out? We can remember the way out.
Obviously.
All good. If you don't, come back and get Tommy Buns and he'll take you down there.
Cheers, thanks so much.
All right, thanks, dude.
Cheers.
All right, we can. I feel like this is the time we should have an advert, eh? We don't do adverts because let's rejig the studio a little bit. You can jump down and jump on the other mic if you want.
Yeah, no problem.
Paul. Thanks, bro. All the best. Good luck for the weekend.
Thank you.
So this is a little thing we do called Pat Watches the Internet. Now, if there is see at the top left-hand corner there, dude, Pat Watches the Internet. There's a little folder up there. I've got no dirty pictures on my laptop today, have I? Make that full screen to make sure we don't see any of the crazy stuff in the background people go to look at. All right, so now I put no sound to play with no sound because some of these things have got audio to them that will get us kicked off the internet. They're just things that I found through the week that I thought we could have a look at. Are we going to have audio for this? Because we haven't had any of the audio of the game.
Yes.
Is that all good? So actually, for this first one, we don't want audio because it's got a popular song on it, and that popular song might get us kicked off YouTube. So let's not do that. Okay, the first one, let's just have a look at it. It's called Bird 1 Cat 0. This is Pat Watches the Internet. Let's have a look at that one first. Yep, double click on that one. Bring it over there. Make it full screen, eh?
Oh boy. Oh boy.
What's the problem? There we go. Cat. Cat 1. This is my other fetish with TikTok. I sit there and I watch them 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 and I watch them. Right, number 2. What's number 2? This is our halftime game. Why don't you just minimise the rugby there, the rugby window. Yeah, there you go, mate. Minimise everything and just bring us up that screen. So if you're actually listening to this podcast, this is going to be a bit that you need to figure out because it's not the most interesting to listen to, I guess. Right, number 2 is amazing actually. Have you ever thought about buying a private jet there, Paul?
No, not recently.
Okay, so private jets typically are worth between sort of 15 and 45 million US if they're new. Check this out. This is a this is a no sound as well. This is a baggage car going out of control. We can start that one up now.
Oh, I think I've seen this.
Out of control, about to smash into a private jet, but there are smart and clever people in the area. Let's have a look. So baggage control car. Look, that jet there is a $40 million jet.
Yeah, getting closer.
And look, it literally is closer. You watch.
It's like a
closer, and it'll hit the next one, and douche. Pretty clever. Pretty clever. Lovely to have Josh in, eh?
Yeah,
I'm so happy he got a chance to come and speak with us. Number 3, this does need sound, so hopefully we'll have sound. I have to say, I don't know how I felt. I've got 3 daughters, and I don't know how I felt about this, but when I went through and had a look at some of the videos that I'd managed to save, quite a lot of them were cutesy animal videos because I typically save them and I show my daughters. But some of them are quite funny and quite cute anyway. Should we have a look at this one?
Yeah. Hopefully we've got laptop sound.
Well, we'll see. You have to have laptop sound.
I haven't quite figured it out yet.
Because it's called peekaboo. If there's no sound, then there's actually going to be nothing that works.
We'll find out, shall we?
Yes. Cutesy animals. Oh, there'll be no sound. So that's not going to work for us, is it?
Oh, it's cute though.
It is cute though, but with no sound, it makes no difference. The bird is basically going, peekaboo, I want to play peekaboo, and his owner is going, no. Okay, let's take it away. Maybe this has been a bomb. Okay, what can we have a look with no sound then? Let's have a look at the bike path. You'll have seen this one. This is in Australia. There is cyclists using the road and not using the bike path. So the car thought, stuff you guys, I'll use the bike path, and hurls abuse at them as he drives past.
Where do you stand on that?
Where do I stand on that? Oh, I think if the cyclists aren't using the cycle path, then sure, the car should be fully free to use it if they want to. It's a typical Aussie thing as well. Dog not looking. We can look at that one. We watched the first few. The owner is eating food. If you want to have a look at these, how far through the feed are we? Hit play on that one. How far through? We're about an hour in. You can come and have a look. So every time the owner turns his head, you watch what the dog does.
Are you a dog person or a cat person?
We have a dog, not a cat person. Actually, I don't really mind. I'm not really a pet person per se, although in our house we have 3 rabbits and a dog. But the dog travels with the children to their mother's place and my place.
Okay.
So every other week I have 3 rabbits that I have to look after. And then the off week I have a dog and 3 rabbits that the children look after. All right, next one. Animals are funny, eh? Okay, this is horrific. It doesn't need sound. And let me just say, we don't encourage this, even though we're having a beer and stuff tonight. I believe this is in Ireland at a party. Hit play.
I just refuse to believe that.
I know. I believe when you've got language, you can hear it.
Oh, yeah. Definitely.
He's a Conor McGregor lookalike, basically. He's had a few and decides it's time to go outside.
Oh.
Straight through the window.
And then celebrates as well.
And then celebrates. But then actually, if you let it run, which we won't do, we can get off that now. He then goes, oopsie, hang on, I've got a few cuts going on there. Yeah. And the thing I like most of all is how everyone's just very chill.
Yeah.
This is normal Friday night for us. Yeah, we can play that one. You'll have to read it because it doesn't have words. This is two dogs having an argument. To make that full screen, you'll have to read the words along with it. But when they've got the words, it is a lot better. When we've got the sound, it's a lot better. So two dogs on a bed who are having an argument. I told you she's my colleague. Why don't you trust me? And it looks like they're really having a conversation. And then, of course,
love these ones.
yeah, it's a very funny one. It would be funnier with sound, but there we go.
Don't know.
This is my TikTok. I saw one today that I've got to put up for the next one about being dehydrated. It's horrific. This is go. You need to jump in about 13 seconds. So this dude's cutting down a tree. Yep, that'll look right from there. Cutting down a tree, right? That's his job. He's got his helmet on. He gets out his chainsaw to start working on it. And unfortunately, the chainsaw causes the palm tree to catch fire at the top at least anyway. So, of course, you think, all good and done now. He saved that moment. But, of course, where he threw the piece of wood that was on fire was down to the base of the tree. And then, of course, what happens is the whole tree...
Whoa, it spread quickly.
His whole tree catches fire.
Wow.
And the most concerning thing about this video is it just stops. You don't really know what to think.
Yeah.
It just goes, bloop, and it's done. But
You gotta get
we
in the
assume
comments
he's
and go,
okay.
Are they okay?
Who knows?
We assume he's okay. All right, what's next? We haven't got sound. Oh, that's ridiculous. You know, these things go around the internet all the time. But this was a particularly good one with this dude hiding from his pets, where the pets don't realise where he's gone. He doesn't do very well because you can see him leaving, see? But the dogs freak out and go, what the... And the reason that's most upsetting that we don't have sound is the last one. You can show the last one. Maybe I'll have to voice over what the parrot actually says.
Yeah, do a voice.
They do it to a parrot. And so jump into that 10th clip. And the reason we left this till last was it was most funny. So he does this to a parrot. And the parrot goes like this. I'll voice it. Goes, what the fuck? That's what the parrot actually says. If you can hear the audio. So I apologise we couldn't quite get those audio things. But that's our Pat Watches the Internet for this week. We'll probably do another one with the next... we've got one on Sunday, I think, don't we? Isn't that Namibia on Sunday?
Yeah, it's a quick turnaround this week, isn't it?
Don't have anybody booked for that, so we'll see if we end up being here or not. Maybe that's the day we have a power cut, so we can't do one. So the All Blacks at the moment, what are your thoughts about it's only second game, I only played 1.5 game. How do you think they're positioning themselves in this World Cup though?
Yeah, I think they'll be happy enough. Obviously the big game was the first game against the Springboks. Remember the last World Cup as well, the games that they played against smaller opposition was sort of, but they were working away in their fitness. And what you've got to remember as well is that I would say that these guys are heavily fatigued because they're probably into their heaviest training load of the year at the minute. So they're taper off before the quarterfinals, so they'll be ready for that game. They look a little bit heavy-legged tonight.
You think so?
Yes, yeah, and that's why. I mean, they'll be getting flogged at training, and they're definitely not at the sharpest tonight. A few drop balls and stuff, but that'll be why.
That seems counterproductive. Or do you think? I mean, you were talking before about the All Blacks sort of always playing at peak level. And it made me think about Arnold Schwarzenegger. And I think there's a movie about his bodybuilding. I've actually never seen it, but I've got lots of friends who have seen it and have been told several times that one of the reasons he was able to perform so well was he never peaked. So like a lot of bodybuilders will drop off and then leave and then train. He just stayed up there the whole time. And that was one of the reasons he was so successful in what he did. It sounds like that's sort of what we're saying about the All Blacks. They're up there, but also I mean, if getting fatigued in training and not fresh enough for the games, that doesn't sound particularly productive. Although, do you think that that's actually a thought-out process to go towards the quarters and semis?
It is. It's like if you were training for a marathon, and the marathon's on the 1st of October.
Yeah.
You want to be right for the 1st of October. What you're doing on the 1st of September doesn't really matter. And you don't.
So you might be shattered through September and think, I'm training too hard.
I can't do this.
But then you take the last 2 weeks off of before the 1st of October.
Yeah. And I actually used to run marathons.
Right.
So that's what you did. And it was terrifying because you were so tired with all the training. You thought, I'm done. I'm never going to be able to do this.
Yeah.
But it says in my training plan I've got to rest for the next 2 weeks, so I'll do that and see what happens, and then bang, there you go. On the big day, you're good to go. I think this is what these guys are doing too.
They have 31 over there? Is that right?
Yep, 31, which is too small, by the way, and I think they'll change it for the next World Cup.
What do you think? 34, 36?
33 probably, maybe 1 or 2 more.
So now that Josh is gone, you think he should have been there?
Yeah, I do.
Over Geordie?
Yeah. I do. I think that it doesn't make sense to me that this dual playmaker thing, and it doesn't make sense to me that they've got their third best playmaker not with them. What if they get one of Moanga or Barrett gets injured? Then they've got to change plans.
Well, I was hearing commentators, rugby brains, talking about for one of these games you might see TJ Perenara or Ben Smith playing first five. I'm like, what?
Yeah, they'll probably...
Just because you've played it at high school doesn't mean you should be playing it at World Cup.
No, I think they'll probably play maybe Geordie there at first against Namibia because it's a quick turnaround. And, I can understand the rationale for doing that. They want to give Moanga and Barrett as much time as possible in those positions. So they're probably thinking, well, do we take Josh then because he's not going to play a lot?
Yeah.
But I just think that, primarily, as I said before, I think he's good enough to be there, and second, I think it aligns better with what they're trying to achieve. And to me, he is as close as they've got to Richie Moanga in terms of his ability to play close to the line, make decisions, and his kicking game. I think he mirrors a lot of what Moanga provides, and he's a great goal kicker too.
Yeah, it's interesting when you kind of package it that basically what you're saying is both their first fives are on the field at all time at first five and fullback, and then if something happens,
exactly,
you definitely want your number 3 on the bench.
I think so, or in the squad at least, so he's ready to roll because
we all remember. When did you come to New Zealand?
That's a good question. Actually, I was born in Christchurch.
Right. When did you come back to New Zealand?
When it was, let's say about 2014.
Okay, so newer than Christian Cullen playing at centre. We all remember the Christian Cullen playing at centre out of position during World Cups, and then going, maybe not the best idea in the world. And if we get to the final, and then if the rugby gods allow that, and we lose a first five or a fullback. Mind you, if we lose a fullback, you've probably got Bender.
Yeah.
But if you lose the first five...
I think
oh, mind you, but then is that the thing? Okay, I'm just talking this out. You lose the first five, Moanga goes off, Bowden goes in, you got Bender at fullback. Is that really... So it basically means your first five reserve is not on the bench, he's on the field.
I think it's more to do with the way that they're trying to play the game. And they've been trying to play this game since the game against the Wallabies in Japan last year, where it was Bowden and McKenzie for the first time.
Yep.
So I've decided then, when you make a big change for a World Cup, you do it at the end of the season tour the previous year, right?
Yep.
This is when you start doing it. So they decided then, this is the way we want to break down defences. 2 playmakers on the field, right? And at that stage, they had Barrett, McKenzie, Moanga. Now, when McKenzie got injured, they've decided, well, we're not going to bring Josh. We'll just go back to the old fullback solution if one of them goes down. That's my issue. It's not consistent with what they've done.
Right.
Look, that's a personal thing. I can see why they brought Geordie there. He's playing on right wing tonight. He gives them such flexibility. He can pop in lots of different places. But I would have liked to see Josh there as the backup, as the next guy to come in, because one of these guys gets injured.
Yeah.
the young fella that was sitting beside us
Yeah.
half an hour ago
Yeah.
is suddenly thrown in
Yeah.
to a World Cup campaign and we're going, okay, win the World Cup for us now.
Yeah, I mean, look what happened last time or 2011? 2011 when we went down to Beaver.
Yeah, and that got away with it. Let's admit
got
it.
away with it. It's the right thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, so is what I'm hearing you're saying. If you're joining along with us, literally kickoff has happened just now. Oh look, so who we got? We've had changes already.
Looks like Ryan Crotty's on.
Crotty's on for who? I can't see a Sonny Bill.
I think Sonny's there. I'm guessing that it's Jack Goodhue who is not there.
First game back. Oh, there we go. So Williams is in a Crotty. Oh, see that's contact in the air, or was it a fair contest? So that it's interesting about these rulings, right? And I still think the head contact is a stumbling block of this Sonny Bill. It goes all the way. Go lad, go lad, go lad. Here we go. Rico, that's what we all want to see, isn't it? Has he got a chance of getting back ahead of as a Bridge, isn't it?
No.
Bridges?
Yeah, I think that the chance he's got of getting back is not ahead of Bridge. It might be for Sevi Reese, but that would mean moving Bridge to the right wing. I think he's up against it. I think they'll give him every chance, but I heard Ian Foster saying that he's been troubled by a calf injury that's prevented him from reaching top fitness. And for a winger to have a calf injury that's affecting your acceleration is, it's a biggie.
Yeah. I think Geordie Barrett's an interesting one. He seems to be, I don't know, I don't want to be disrespectful by saying a jack of all trades and master of none. That's too harsh, especially from a fat dude sitting watching rugby from the other side of the world, because he's a sublime athlete. Yeah, but I think about his brother, and I remember when his brother was behind Cruden at first five, and every time Bowden came on, something happened magical, and he had the X factor. There was something. And I remember having debates. In fact, Dom George was with us last game as a journalist and that, and I used to do something else with him at the ODT, and I remember saying to him during this thing that we did at the ODT, where I said, if he comes on and brings the magic for the last 30 minutes, why don't we just let him have the magic for the full 80? And not long after that, he got the starting spot. I like seeing, I guess we all like seeing those kinds of players, but Geordie seems to be a very, very, very good utility replacement type player, which is probably why he's there.
Yeah, I think you've hit the nail on the head there, Pat. He's been moved around a lot in his young career, sometimes not from any fault of his own, but just because the Hurricanes have needed him to step in various positions, 12, 13, wing, fullback. And until he finds his own spot, I don't think we're going to see the best of him. I think he's a midfielder. I think he's a 12. I think
so that's his natural spot?
I think so.
He's a giant of a man. He's
a massive
6'5",
man, and he loves contact.
Yeah.
I think that's where he wants to play. And, I think that was probably a factor in his decision about where he's going to stay at the Hurricanes or move on to the Blues.
Yeah.
So I think he'll end up in the midfield, and then we'll see the best of him.
Do you think his best years are yet to come? That maybe a year, 2, 3 from now, he might be more like in that starting lineup somewhere midfield.
Yeah, I think he'll.
Good enough to be the starting All Black midfield.
Oh, if you just look at the players in that position, I think maybe Anton Leonard-Brown will end up at 12 for the All Blacks longer term. Nani Lamapi as well. It's not easy to crack that side, but I think he's got a better chance of making the midfield longer term than he does have at fullback.
Yeah, or at wing.
Or I just don't think he's a winger.
No, again, blowing unfit dude from the other side of the world, the last person to say it, but he doesn't seem to have that same step. Look at a Reese or a Rico or there's something different about them. Another try. Was he going to drop this one? Well done, Barrett. Well done, Barrett. Held on to it. Didn't do a dog roll. Poor boy. Oh my goodness. So that puts us to 40-0 after 44 minutes. So my 80 is pretty much on.
It is on.
Point a minute.
Let me throw a question back at you, Pat. How confident are you feeling at this stage about the All Blacks winning the World Cup?
I don't think my confidence has changed from before the World Cup. And I said before the World Cup, I didn't expect us to win it. And it's not because we didn't have the skill set to win it. It's because what has to line up to do 3 in a row meaning 3 World Cups in a row, seems so insurmountable. I don't know how they will. One thing goes wrong. Like, for example, Japan beats Ireland and we face Ireland in the quarters and they have the game of the century. One thing goes wrong and we're gone. So I think that stuff.co.nz, actually, people don't know much about you. You're with stuff.co.nz Sports. Yep. What's your official title there?
Just sports reporter. Yeah, I cover the Highlanders and rugby mostly.
I think the power rankings that Stuff's got is a really good tool. And at the start of the tournament, Stuff basically saying, here's the statistical chances of what's going to happen. The All Blacks to get into the quarterfinal round was a 99% chance. I agree with that. But if you went through, was win that game into the semis, would win that game into the final, would win the final, it was about 30%. And I think that's really fair because that's acknowledging what could go wrong. So I will say this to you, not to sit on the fence. I think we are the best team at the Rugby World Cup at the moment. I think we're the favourites to win. But I think 5 minutes of rugby, one decision of rugby, one, let's say bad move, bad call, and we're out. So I still would say, statistically speaking, we're no favourites, just based on all of those.
Is there anybody that you've seen that's making you think they can get close enough to the All Blacks to bring a bad decision into it? Is it what are the teams?
I have to say, and after watching the Japan game, it may not be the case, but when Ireland played that first game, they looked unstoppable. They looked unbelievable. I think looking at what's going to happen, I mean, I've done the draw a few times, and for a while we were either going to play Scotland or Japan in that quarter. Now Japan's gone and beaten Ireland. They could easily win that whole pool. Here we go, another try. 47 minutes in.
That was nice.
Yeah, that was lovely, actually. Lovely offload. Who passed that offload?
That was Rico. Maybe that try that he just scored is maybe that's a spark that he needs.
He needs a bit of something, eh?
He's just got involved again there, coming closer to the play.
It's like when you watch like a Marty Guptill, a cricketer who is just a world class cricketer, and they just fail and they fail and they fail and they fail, and then something happens and they get fucking 225 not out of the World Cup, and then for the rest of that year they just don't go out. Yeah. Sometimes they need something, eh?
Yeah, it's a mental game, isn't it?
Yeah. I have to say now I think that there's every chance that we could face Ireland in the quarters. I think if we do that, that's a dangerous game. And on the same side of the draw, you've probably got England versus Australia, which means even if we get past that first race, we've either got England or Australia. Australia, I haven't been impressed with this World Cup, but they are a team that seems to get up, especially against the All Blacks. I think that there are 2 or 3 teams for me that are kind of going really interesting looking. But also now that Japan's just done what Japan's done, it's kind of thrown it all up. I mean, I really wanted to see a New Zealand-Ireland final. And if Ireland won that pool, they would have been on the other side of the table. So, yeah, there you go. 49-0. 49-0 after 48 minutes. That is 6 converted tries and a penalty try. So, yeah, what about you? What are you saying? I mean, you're more up to your neck in it than I am, keeping an eye on actually as a rugby reporter.
Yeah, I don't see anybody particularly close to All Blacks at the minute. And I know what you're saying about Ireland, and I think there is part of it is it's a bit like boxing. I think some fighters make good fights, and I think that Ireland's got a style that brings them closer to the All Blacks, and potentially they should be on a talent basis.
Yep.
But I think that quite a lot has changed since the last encounter in November, and I've always felt that if the All Blacks had put Wong at 10, that Ireland wouldn't be able to cope with him and Barrett. And I think that changes everything for me. And I would think that it would have to be torrential rain wherever they're playing in the quarterfinal, and the All Blacks would have to have 2 men sent off within the first 5 minutes, and then potentially another couple of lucky decisions, and Ireland might win that match.
I said this at the last Rugby World Cup, and I think I've already told this story on this podcast, so apologies if you've heard it before. But if All Blacks play to their peak, as best they can. No one touches them, no matter what happens on the other side of the halfway line. If All Blacks play half as good as they can, it's a game against maybe the 2 or 3 top teams. There goes Bodie through the gap. Brad Weber about to score under the dot. This is going to run out to more than 80-0.
That's the beauty of pace right there. We were talking about Bodie's pace earlier, but Weber is electric. When he came down here and played the Highlanders, he scored a try that not many other halfbacks could score. And this is what I love about New Zealand rugby. Brad Weber and a lot of other nations wouldn't be a rugby player because some coach who hadn't got a clue would have told him he was too small 15 years ago, and he would have given the game up.
Yep, go play soccer.
Yep. Now there he is playing at the World Cup, scoring a beautiful try, running a beautiful line off Bowden Barrett.
Yep.
And that's why I like to watch the All Blacks play.
Yeah, good try. Lovely try, actually. So I was going to say, so if we play to half of our capacity, then maybe the other 3 or 4 top teams in the world, it's a game. For another team to beat us, we basically have to have a terrible game, and whoever it is, Ireland, Australia, England, probably South Africa, maybe not, have to play their best game. That's what we saw in Perth. We saw the All Blacks playing their worst game and Australia playing their best, and that's why they blew us out. That's the way that someone beats us, but it's possible, which is why I say it's not, there's still a road to go here.
What do you do if the All Blacks lose? Do you sink into a funk of depression that lasts for 4 months, or is it just done and dusted next day?
To me, it's a game. This is a game. It's a game I love. I love this game. I played a fair bit of it. I played a lot of sports. Oh, the Ben from accounting's on. No, in fact, I'll be careful the way I say this because I don't want to cast any aspersions. But that Vodafone advert that's got the guy who wins the Rugby World Cup.
I hate that advert.
Well, the reason I look at that and I kind of go is I see and not talking about the person in the advert. Don't know that person, not commenting to that person.
Yep.
But that's the kind of passion that when the All Blacks lose causes the rate of domestic violence to go up.
Yeah.
That kind of passion for the game, that kind of desperate need for this team to give you validation is the stuff that sends women to shelters.
What?
And I that really concerns me. For me, I'll be like, if they lose, I'll be like, fuck. And then I'll be like, well. That honestly will be my response.
Well, let me ask you another question on a similar topic. Do you think that New Zealanders have become more accepting of losing, or has it not changed, or has there been a societal change that says when the All Blacks lose, it's people just get on with their lives, or what's your feeling of the last 10, 15 years?
It probably depends. Well, I have to say no, and I'll give you an example why. So I worked for News Talk ZB for 7 years as a talkback host.
Yeah.
So I heard all those opinions. And I well remember the time that Robbie Deans did not get the job as All Black captain. All Black coach.
You got a few calls from Canterbury?
Split the country in two. Never going to support the All Blacks again, never going to do it again. And then he got appointed by the Wallabies, and he was the coach. And in the very next, whatever it was, Tri-Nations or Quad Nations we did, right? His Australia team beat our All Blacks. I don't remember what year it was, whatever, but because I remember this because of the talkback. 2 hours solid of, we've just given away the next Rugby World Cup. I'm never going to watch All Blacks again. Worst decision ever. I remember just letting the talkback going and saying to a bunch of those people, "This is a tournament we're playing. This Tri series, whatever it is, Sansa. I say, if for some reasons the All Black comes back and they win this, will you call back and recant?" And they all said, "Of course I will," but they're not going to do it. And guess what happened? The All Blacks came back and they won that Tri series, and they ended up being the team on top.
Yeah.
Did talkback that night? Deathly quiet.
Yeah.
Deathly quiet. But I say I don't. From that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, I think that was 2008. I think you're talking about. He went from Crusaders winning Super Rugby, and then they played them in Sydney and beat them 34-19 or something like that. It was quite a heavy loss. It was some bad performances. So I don't think Richie was playing that night. But
so I think that I don't think that feeling has gone away. Mind you, I also acknowledge that the sort of I guess what is now considered the Twitter sphere, which back then was Talkback. I mean, Talkback has kind of moved into social media.
Yep.
That it doesn't appear that New Zealand is over losing. And in fact, you often hear more whinging when we do badly than praise when we do well. So that would again suggest that maybe we haven't got used to losing. But when it comes down to it, there are 30 grown-ass men chasing a ball around a field right now, getting paid hundreds of thousands of dollars to entertain us. It's a game.
It is a game, and this is going to get me arrested as well.
I think I've seen a few things just in there might get me arrested.
But I obviously am in and around players as part of my job, and I actually find rugby players very well rounded and probably don't have the same life and death attitude towards the game as some supporters. And
yeah, that's interesting.
That might put people up the wrong way, but these guys have got families. They make decisions on basis on their family. If I know is so important to them, they have other things going on in their life. They don't lead a life where it's rugby all the time, obsession about it.
That's good though.
It is good.
It's healthy,
and it's really good, and it's a really important part of high performance programs, rugby programs in New Zealand, and by that I mean the Super Rugby franchises.
Yep.
And they are big on making sure that the players that they get in have a whole of life experience, and actually it even goes below that. It goes to a Mitre 10 Cup level. I spoke to Ben Harry, the Otago coach at the start of the year, and I said, "What's success to you, Ben?" He says, "Success to me is getting some of these young fellas at the end of the year, they're confident and standing up in front of their peers and making a presentation." He said, "That's it. That's it for me.
Wow.
Wins and losses, keeping the shield, it's all cool, all lovely and the rest of it, but 10 years, 20 years time, that's what I'll take away as success." And I think that's true of a lot of the teams.
That was beautiful.
Yep.
That was Mo'unga.
That's Mo'unga again. But
that Brad Weber again.
That's
a couple.
That's how I think the players view the game, and I think that's a really good example to the people who follow the game as well.
Yeah, that's a really nice way to think about it. If you're just joining us or you're listening to this in post, it's 57 minutes in, and Brad Weber just scored his second with a beautiful offload by Mo'unga. I see that Geordie took it at first. Wonder if that's a plan.
Is 61-0 good for us?
It's 61-0 good for us, says Tom in the corner. I think it's better than the other way.
Yeah.
Better than 0-61. Yeah. I don't know. There'll probably be people after this, much like there were after Tonga, saying, "No, what did that really do for us?"
No, but there will be.
I think it's had lots. Yeah, it's an interesting kind of psychological thought about the amount of joy, identity people find in their sporting athletes. You know, I sometimes watch American football and I watch college football in America, and it scares the shit out of me sometimes to look at 100,000 people in this stadium, all fucking painted orange, you know, with their shirts off, and it's snowing, and it just feels like sometimes it goes from being a supporter to being a cult.
Yeah, it's, you know, it's very difficult as well because...
do you want another drink, by the way?
Yeah.
What do you want? You want another beer?
Yes, please.
Would you like a Heine? Watching the Rugby World Cup?
Yeah, that sounds good. Look, it's the other way I look at it as well is from a perspective of a father. I've got 3 young kids. The eldest is 5, and then I've got twins who are 3, and the eldest. One of the reasons that we moved back to New Zealand is that we thought it was the best country in the world to bring up kids, and it's got a wonderful culture. And he's, without any prompting, he's starting to get into the All Blacks, and it's just such a wonderful thing for him to get into with his friends. Now I'm going to try and make sure he doesn't turn into one of those fans that goes nuts about the All Blacks, but he's really proud of it, and it's a little bonding thing from him and his friends at school, etc. So I mean, I look at it from that angle as well, and I see rugby being so important to rural communities in New Zealand. I went to Alexandra for the Highlanders pre-season game. Town got together for it. There's a lot to like about the fanaticism about the All Blacks as well. But I do agree with you. And as a journalist, I get it in my inbox all the time because people think I'm a rabid Irish fan who wants the All Blacks to burn in hell. Nothing could be further from the truth. But that's how people, perceive it.
Yeah.
So there is that unhealthy side of it. But I also think there's a really lovely side to it as well. And I can hand on heart say that most of all the players that I've met have all been really nice guys and have had much more about them than people would think.
I as you're talking about that, I'm thinking community. I'm thinking when I grew up in Auckland, and we supported the Marist Rugby Club, and in that era, John Kerwin was there, Zinzan Brook was there. It was like they were the big boys.
Yep.
And it was a great era of club rugby with I think Grant Fox played for University with Terry Wright and all these players. And I've told this story before as well. But from where I am to you, right, literally that's a meter. Let's say it's 2 meters. We'd be standing on the sideline, and there's John Kerwin. Like literally, there is John Kerwin. Like
How did that make you feel as a young fella?
Oh, just like unbelievable. But then the community was everyone goes back to the club rooms afterwards. Everyone has a beer. All the players are there. I mean, it was that kind of rugby racing beer culture. So it wasn't, if you stayed there late at night, it wasn't perhaps the best.
Yep.
But as what would I have been, 10, 12 year old, whatever, go and get a lemonade with my old man, getting a ginger ale because he wasn't a drinker. In the club rooms, and the teams came out, and there's John Kerwin, and there's Bernie McCarhall, and there's, and it really was community. And I do wonder sometimes when we talk about community, we've lost that level of club rugby in New Zealand a little bit because, I mean, fucking Super Rugby starting in February. So basically, anyone does well in the Mitre 10 Cup this year, they're not going back to their clubs next year. They're going to Super Rugby and then going into NPC Rugby, and some of them will go into All Black Rugby, and the clubs are now like the amateur feeding zone that no one, well, I can't say no one attends, that's arrogant because I don't attend, but that feels like the NPC now is what club rugby was in the 80s. The NPC is the feeder to the bigger league, like the club rugby used to be the feeder to the NPC.
Yeah, I think it's I think that everybody that I speak to in the game is concerned about that, and I think people are concerned about Mitre 10 Cup, and I think people are concerned about Super Rugby as well. I spoke to a CEO of a Super Rugby team not so long ago, and he tells me he wakes up pretty much every morning worrying about Super Rugby and attendances because they've dropped off a little bit.
Yeah.
And when you take away that club game at the bottom, then that they're on the front line of getting people into the game. So
the club feeds the fans to the Super Rugby.
I think so. I think
but that would be the club feeds the fan to the NPC, and the NPC should be leading. So, like for example, we're in Otago, obviously. That means Southland, but see straight away, how often do the Highlanders play in Southland this year? So all of those Southland fans basically are already kind of strucken off the attendance. I mean, some travel obviously, but the majority of them won't.
I mean, I think this is New Zealand rugby's big question. What do they do about parochialism in the game and how to get it back and how to value it? Because it's all about the All Blacks, and sometimes that doesn't work well with the lower part of the game. I mean, when's the last time Ben Smith played for Otago? Yeah,
well that's it. Then they don't ever go back to NPC.
No.
So once they're you ask the same about the Barretts in Wellington or
Taranaki that they play for. So they
or Reed and Canterbury or So actually they've gone. Even we were talking about what's lost from club rugby. They're actually also lost from NPC rugby.
Yep.
Yeah, because I can remember club finals. I remember, you'd go to Eden Park and you'd see Marist playing Ponsonby or Universities playing Ponsonby or, whatever. It was a big overlap. And the club finals, there was typically a window where the All Blacks or the Auckland players were back. So you'd see the club finals and you'd see the All Blacks playing for their club sides in the club finals. It was fantastic. I guess the equivalent of that now would be in the Mitre 10, where you see your All Blacks playing back in the finals for the Mitre 10 teams.
It's just so much rugby these days, and it's not going to change next year, because next year is still a full. How many teams are in Super Rugby now? 16, whatever it is. That's it. The Sunwolves are still going to be part of it next year. It's a full Super Rugby, and then I think 2 or 3 tests in July as well. So it's just a huge amount of rugby, which is why they're starting in February. And then at the end of that, you've got your Mitre 10 Cup. So it's a real dilemma about how to work that all in. I just think there's too much rugby.
What do you think? I'm going to actually now suggest something that will give us more rugby, which will go down like a bag of cold stick. What do you think about the idea of basing the Super Rugby on the NRL? Like, rather than playing sort of and finishing in August and then going, they do like a 30-week season. They play teams home and away, and then actually when the All Blacks are playing, players get pulled out.
I have got so many friends in Australia who just want to give you a big kiss right now, because they're in my ear all the time about the Australians rugby fans want a Trans-Tasman competition. They do not want to be part of Super Rugby anymore. They want to play New Zealand teams week in, week out. They want to have it aligned to. They've got footy seasons over there, and they want it to be that desperately. Yeah, and it's probably only money that's stopping it from happening, because New Zealand wants South Africa's money in Super Rugby. But
population density and numbers.
I think what you're talking about would completely reinvigorate the game over there and add a bit of interest over here.
Do you think that we should be concerned about Australian rugby?
Yes.
Yeah?
I do. As I said, I worked there for 14 years, and at the start of it, it was, I mean, Wallabies at that time, in the early 2000s, was obviously going through a great period, but it was office talk, and it's not anymore. The casual fan is drifted away from rugby, and Super Rugby as a brand is dead in Australia.
And have they gone somewhere, or they just dropped it? Like, have they gone off?
Yeah, they've gone to AFL, and they've gone to NRL. NRL was obviously the number one competitor, but the AFL is extraordinarily wealthy, and it has spent a lot of money getting into schools, into rugby schools, and it's a very, in a sense, a very easy game to play. It's just the ball kicking around. There's not as much as that contact that you get. So a lot of people have put their kids towards that. So rugby's lost enormous ground in Australia, and I don't think that people in New Zealand appreciate quite how far it's fallen.
I heard a stat once. It's probably not true. I'll have to Google it, because we normally have a Google option, but our Google option is playing Spark Sport right now. That AFL Aussie Rules had actually a pretty massive player base in New Zealand as well.
Really?
And it was growing. Aussie Rules numbers in NZ. I'll have a look while we're talking.
Was this on AFL?
It says there's 30,000 registered players.
Yeah, is that on AFL.com? They like to pump up their numbers.
Wikipedia.
All right, okay.
AFL Wikipedia. But 30,000, that's...
Yeah, well...
I wonder as well, I mean, I talked about Bernie McCahill before, and part of Marist, like growing up in the kind of Auckland Catholic scene with the McCahills and all that kind of stuff, and the hooks into the Gaelic rugby and the Irish club and that sort of thing. I wonder if there is a group of expats who gravitate towards AFL who may be from a Celtic country rather than Gaelic football or that sort of thing.
Possibly.
Don't know.
Possibly. But, you know, AFL is huge over there, and they've spent a lot of money expanding the league as well.
63-0 after 66 minutes.
What was your prediction?
80-5.
80-5. I think you're on track, aren't you?
Well, I just thought, you know, it was interesting chatting with Case last time about how important that donut is. And if they've got, that was unlucky, if they've got a 0 at this stage of the game, how important it is for them to keep it. And he was like, if we can, absolutely. That was a really unfortunate break with the ball, the way the ball bounces for that young Canadian fella.
How's Case's, how's the real estate market going for him? Is it?
Yeah.
Is it booming in Dunedin?
Yeah. I mean, I moved here 4.5 years ago and bought a house up in Wakarai up the hill for about $230.
Ooh.
Same house. If you go to like homes.co.nz or One Roof, whatever they're calling you, and you no sponsorship by the way yet, and you type in the houses, they're being looked at for between sort of 450 and 500k now. So in the last sort of 4.5 years, we got in just the right time. You know,
Wow.
it's it seems to have gone up, and I mean that Aucklanders will hear that and laugh. Like my sister thinks it's hilarious. You know, she come here and buy 4 houses, and but still, you know, put on 100k over two and a half years. It's not nothing.
No.
So yeah, I think he was saying it's going gangbusters, and I think what happened was when I moved down, when we moved down, there was a bit of a flurry of investment from outside of Dunedin, including people moving here and buying, but certainly of people investing in rental properties because the return was good, and that's the thing that's driven the market. It's the same. It's funny. It's the same argument again. Talking about talkback, I used to hear it all the time. You know, bloody insert international person's name here of whatever ethnicity coming over here and buying our houses. Moved to Dunedin, it's like bloody Aucklanders coming here and buying our houses. It's exactly the same argument. Just remove an international ethnic name and put in Auckland instead. Is what it is. 63-0. What's this? 11 minutes to go. Josh seems to have his head, again, not meant to be patronising, but his head screwed on. Knows what he's doing, knows what he's about.
Yeah, it was really interesting to hear him talk about how his parents insisted that he got a university education. So, you know, that's a key thing to have that support, isn't it? And to make sure that he's been looked after rugby as well. So
yeah.
It sounds like he's been a pretty grounded fella, and having the younger brother down here as well was interesting. I didn't realize
that was fascinating.
That's a nice touch, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. We should probably say as well, if you're tuning in now, and you're joining us and you're thinking, hang on, you guys are supposed to have an All Black with you. We had Josh Ioane for the first half, and we happily and gleefully shoot him out of the studio at halftime because he's got to go to training tomorrow and he's got a Ranfurly Shield defence this weekend, and we didn't want to be held responsible for making him tired and off the ball with a subpar performance. Imagine that.
Here comes Artie Xavier.
Oh, what do you think of the goggles? You know what I thought as soon as I saw them? How long before there's a camera right between the eyes? That'll actually, that's what I thought it was. When they talked about Artie wearing those glasses, I thought, he's wearing them to give like a, you know, camera option sort of thing, but they're for his eyes. But that's got to be if they're wearing them, that's got to be the season. Put a little camera between the eyes as well, and you'll have Artie cam.
Yeah, it's a funny story, isn't it? I don't know whether it's like a heartwarming story or whether it's just a terrifying story as well, because essentially he's wearing them so that he doesn't get eye gouged in his right eye and goes blind later in life, which is a horrific thought, really. There's no prescription in them.
Is that right?
No, you can put them prescriptions in them, but there's none in his.
The way I read it was he had a issue with his eyes.
He's got a issue with his left eye, but it must be so.
He looks like a spaceman. Come on, Artie.
He does look pretty cool.
It does look pretty cool.
Yeah, his eyesight in his left eye is bad, but it must be a condition that can't be improved with contact lenses. I wear contact lenses, and it also must be a condition that might degenerate over time. And
that's why when he talked about that, because he talked about his eyesight getting quite a lot worse over the last year or couple of years. That's why I thought they must be prescription. But you're saying he's just dealing with that issue, and
there's no prescription, so he's not seeing any better out of his left eye. He's just wearing them to protect his right eye in case it gets damaged.
I follow Stephen Merchant, comedian, co-writer of The Office, etc., etc.
Very tall man,
6'7". He often tells stories of when he was at school, because he's got very bad eyesight, not being able to play any sport at all. I look at what Artie's wearing tonight, and I'm thinking, gosh, actually, and I did hear him mention it on the All Blacks website that I did a little interview with him about kids looking at it and being able to use this for their own thing. And I think about kids with bad eyesight, rugby becomes an option.
Well, I just think as well for kids with bad eyesight, if you're going back to the school term, and you're wearing glasses, you're just feeling 10 foot tall. And I know he didn't want to be seen as a role model, but
They all say that.
you know what kids are like. They'll see that and just think it's awesome. Everybody will want glasses now.
It does look quite cool, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
It looks like he's straight out of Tron. Ben from accounting. Oh, so there's definitely two, perhaps 3 tries they could have scored. 70, we're actually 10 minutes to go exactly. So that was Weber knock on, but ball thrown behind him, not his fault. Have you had much to do with Ben Smith in your reporting?
Yeah, he doesn't give much away.
No.
I don't know whether there's much to give away or or it's all just a big mask, but he really doesn't give much away. He gives the impression that he'd rather be getting tattoos on his eyes rather than speaking to reporters.
Yeah, we met him in Sinclair, and I never do this because I really always respect high-profile people's space. I never go up to people and talk to them, no matter what. But I was like, I can't turn down this opportunity. And I went up to him, I talked to him, it was with his family, and said, podcast and come on. He's like, yeah, we should figure that out. Of course, no. No, not a chance. But I'm fine with that, it's not like for us to get Josh Ioane tonight was a bit of a coup actually, so don't have any qualms about that whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it was pretty funny. You could just see he must get so many, especially in Dunedin, he must get so many people. Oh, school opening. Oh, prize giving. Oh, can you? Oh, and then I'm just another fucking one doing it. I don't know. I'm assuming because he's off to, where's he off to?
He's off to France for 7 months, but I think he'll end up in Japan after that.
Yeah, but I think he'll probably come back here first, like to pack up house and stuff.
Yes.
Maybe I'll try and grab him again. Maybe I'll let him say yes again before he doesn't come in.
Yeah.
Lovely guy though, and such a nice, obviously happy to give people, time out in the public and stuff. And I wondered as well when we saw him out in public, I thought I could see a little bit of grey in the old. Look, goggles are off.
Oh no!
What's happened? So collision already. Did he taken them off? Maybe it didn't work for him. He's taken his goggles off already. So if you're just joining and you're not listening, Artie Safia, after about 2.5 minutes, has lost the goggles. They are gone and are no longer to be seen. When we met him down at Sinclair, I'm sure I noticed just a little bit of ouch, a little bit of grey in the beard.
Yeah.
And I notice he's always very clean shaven when he's on the field, and I wonder if there's a little bit of a, keeping up with the younger guys. I'm not gonna show a little bit of the grey in the beard.
Yeah.
I always wondered that. I don't know.
Kieran Reid's going. He's got a grey beard.
Yeah, but he doesn't care obviously.
No, doesn't
because he's the captain.
No.
Now that was head-to-head contact. There's not going to be anything significant because there were 2 heads. That is still something that's gonna continue on. I reckon that conversation around head contact. I am concerned that that's going to be a factor for a team at some stage in those last 3 rounds.
I think it will, almost certainly will, because when you get the big teams playing each other, you get that big contact, you get the big collisions, and there's going to be a high contact. That's just the nature of the game, and it's interesting, this high contact thing, because it's really a debate about how much risk is acceptable, and World Rugby's decided that we're going to draw the line.
What? No risk.
No risk.
Because Hooper actually said it was the Australian game, was it? He actually said, are we not allowed to run through the line anymore? Is that what you're saying, ref?
No, you're not. I thought I was watching the breakdown on Sky last night. I thought Glenn Jackson made a good point about that. The referee, he said, it was really interesting. He said, look, I've refereed Michael Hooper. He's a great captain, but I think that all the noise that Michael Check has created around the Wallabies has affected his captaincy, and he let himself down a little bit.
Really? Like with those comments?
Yeah. No, when he talked to the ref, when he said, those comments.
Yeah.
Now, you know, like letting yourself down a little bit in New Zealand, that's quite a big insult.
Although we had the last one of these we did, Case Muse brought up the old Tana Umanga statement, we're not playing tiddlywinks here.
Oh,
ref.
yeah.
So maybe there's somewhere between those two. We're not playing tiddlywinks and can we please play to run crash tackles.
Yeah, I thought that was interesting that Jackson said that though, because
Check is a dick, eh?
I think
As soon as Australia was down,
get me in trouble here.
As soon as Australia was down, I tweeted, "I wonder how many excuses Cheika's already coming up with for why they're losing."
Yeah, New Zealanders really hate Cheika, don't they? They really hate him.
He is so like even after the game, he's like a petulant schoolboy. And look, just how he comes across, it's like, there's no point saying it because I don't know. Am I being harsh from your 13 years in Australia?
I kind of look at him from an Australian perspective, where that sort of behaviour and conduct is quite commonplace from rugby league coaches.
Right.
Hard on the sleeve, and Australians like that. And Australians may think, yes, he is a bit of a dick, but he's our dick.
Right.
So that's why they defend him a little bit.
Yeah.
Although I do think in the higher echelons of Rugby Australia, patience with him isn't what it was, and that they are not glad that he's going, but they'll see it as an opportunity to turn the page when he does go and create a better relationship between the Wallabies and World Rugby.
He's got his eyes back on.
Has he?
Yeah.
So how did they fall off?
I don't know. Maybe they came off. That's not a good sign. Maybe they came off at a previous ruck and he had to go back and get them or something. Maybe someone ripped them off. Something else to grab, isn't it? But it is that kind of thing that if you're performing, you will get a lot of grace. I mean, I think about classic difficult athletes like your Dennis Rodmans of this world. But he was such a phenomenal rebounder for whatever team he played for in the NBA. There's a lot of grace for his antics. Says to me, if Cheika doesn't perform, and he hasn't ever really performed, far less grace for the antics.
Yes, and he's had a really, really bad last 3 years since the last World Cup.
Right. Yeah.
And I think that if you think about, do you remember what happened with the Australian cricket team? Steve Smith.
Tampering of the ball?
Yes.
Yep.
Now, that caused so much outrage in Australia because they hate cheating and they hate people being, as they say, pork chops. And I think that same way that they hated that, some people in Australia look at Cheika and go, is he representing us in the best way possible? No. So, I think Cheika wears his heart on the sleeve, and he's got a lot of good qualities, and I think he's got the best interests of Australian rugby at heart.
Yeah.
But has he handled some setbacks as well as he could have done? And I think no. And the surprising thing is he hasn't learned, because I am sure that they would put him through professional development courses and all the rest of it, but he can't control his anger, I suppose.
Yeah.
He's old enough to know better. But I think they'll go for an Australian coach, a Kiwi coach when he goes anyway. I think Dave Rennie will get the job.
That's interesting. Oh, Geordie Barrett, Chip and Chase.
Oh, the three brothers.
Where's Bodie?
Brilliant.
Give it a Bodie.
Oh.
It's interesting when you say he wears his heart on his sleeve. I'm always reminded. I used to do a lot of theatre sports, a lot of stuff on stage back in my 20s. And there are people who kind of go, I'm a loose cannon and I just don't play by the rules. And they say that as a good... One way of saying it is, I'm a loose cannon and I don't play by the rules. The other way of saying that same thing is, I don't give a fuck about anybody else. I only think of myself. Both is the same attribute said in a different way.
Yeah.
I wonder the attribute you're talking about with Cheika, I wonder if it was said a different way, how it would come across.
Yeah, I take your point. With him as well, you have to remember his background. He's a son of Lebanese immigrants, and he does not fit the model for rugby establishment in Australia, which is North Shore, Sydney, private school.
Well,
it's the
posh boys, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. It is. And he has always felt, I think, like he's an outsider in Australian rugby.
Right.
And he's never felt he's had the backing of the establishment. So And he also, when he took over that team, he did so when they were at a very, very low ebb and then needed him badly. So he was probably given too much leash to get away with things.
Right. Go and solve the problem, please.
So I think that all of those things have contributed to, what we're seeing now. And Australia's a funny place. I think you mentioned Robbie Deans earlier. I was there for when Robbie was getting crucified in Australia for not being Australian, essentially, for being a Kiwi, and he's coming over here and he's a Trojan horse, he's wrecking Australian rugby and all the rest of it. And I remember in the Lions tour 2013 sitting in a hotel lobby with Robbie in Brisbane before the first test, and this was when he was under immense pressure, causing an impact on his family and everything. I'm sure it was just never ending. And I'll never forget how polite he was to the hotel staff.
Right.
And it's funny, I've remembered that for all the things that happened, all the footy that's been played, that's stayed with me. And I thought that is the sign of a class act.
Yeah.
When it was all the pressure was on him, and he's taking time out, and he's an absolute gentleman for somebody who's come to ask about, well, how's your service? And it was a young lady, and he stood up, and I just was blown away by that. And it's funny what stays with you, and that moment absolutely did, and that told me so much about Robbie Deans.
I wonder, and it's an unanswerable question, but if you put Michael Cheika in the same position in that same hotel, I wonder what would be the outcome. I mean, he might be taking, the game's over, he goes home, he might be a perfectly amicable, kind, generous person.
I think he is, and I think he's a big family man and all the rest of it. But what the world sees and what he projects is very different to that.
Yeah. We're coming up to the end of the game. After all of that, you are going to be closer to your score.
What was my margin? 64 points?
What did you say?
70 to 6.
You did, didn't you? 64 points. Oh, so we're going on margins now, aren't we? Margins, not scores. Either way,
the goalposts a little bit.
Either way, you win. So we've got Namibia, we've got Italy. What do you expect to see over the next couple of weeks?
A lot of changes for Namibia, and then the strongest team.
There you go. Here comes my 5
Canada.
Points.
Oh, still going. Oh, smashed
him.
Yeah, so a lot of changes for Namibia. It's a 4-day turnaround, and then really back to business for. Oh, you're going to get your.
Oh, there we go. It's going to be 70-0.
Oh, he's tying up.
Yeah, look at it.
No!
Him and his brother.
Maybe you're right. Maybe he has lost some pace.
That actually looked.
What was that?
Yeah. That looked like he was, I don't know, almost thinking, he hasn't hurt something. Has he pulled a hammy or something?
It didn't look to be.
He wasn't moving very quick though, was he? Look for the replay there. I mean, I wonder as well, it'd be interesting if we still had Josh here to say, how does Canada's done? They're like, that'll do us. Yeah. We'd rather take 63-0 than 70-0.
Nice.
I mean, I wonder how Hansen responds to those balls ups. I wonder if it's just like, roll over, you boys know what you've done wrong, or I wonder if there's the bollocking.
I think it's perfect for him because he always likes to have something to point to after the game and go, well, this is where we could do better.
Yeah. I wouldn't mind seeing a replay of that. I guess I'm going to have to go home and have a look at it there.
It's one of the things about the coverage so far, and I'm not having to go at Spark because they don't control it, but I don't think the replays have been very good. It's the international feed that comes in.
I think there's been a lot. There was an issue the other day. Scotty Stevenson was definitely commentating. Was it the Australian game? Yeah, because he was a drop kick quite early on.
Sure,
and there was a game
they?
playing in the background, and they were showing highlights of the drop kick for like 3 minutes.
Yeah, I know. And it was Wales getting close to the Wallabies line as well, wasn't it? It sounded really exciting when we were watching it.
Yeah, and you're seeing replays of drop kicks. All right, well, we're not going to get a replay of that balls up. Bowden balls up. He probably did it on purpose just so his brother wouldn't feel quite so badly. But there you go. We're done. That 63-0, that's another Department of Conversation Rugby World Cup ABs, watching the ABs. If you joined us late, you missed Josh Ioane, current All Black. Obviously, he's on the roster to head to Japan should anything go down. He was here for the first half, so if you want to get his thoughts and insights, had some interesting things to say, then you can pick up this video feed on YouTube and on Facebook, or you can take the audio feed off iTunes, Spotify, and Stitcher, and probably because it's so late tonight that it might be up there later on today or within, let's say, within 24 hours. So that's us. Paul Cully, thank you.
My pleasure.
Reporter at stuff.co.nz. People want to find out more about you and what you do. What do they do?
Just go to Stuff, go to the rugby site, and there'll be plenty of my stuff there.
Cool. And next year, you got any hope for the Highlanders?
Yeah, I do actually.
Yeah.
Tony Brown's coming back.
Yeah.
And I think next year and then the year after that, when they get Villamoni, Karoy and Nareki together, I think it's good times coming.
I moved to Dunedin at just the right time because it was the season that they won.
Yeah.
That was when we moved down, so that was perfect.
Well, I've got Josh there, Aaron Smith, a couple of exciting guys coming through in the wing. I think it'll be all right.
Excellent. All right. Hey, Tom, thank you, sir. We got our sound back again now. I thought we could show that to finish up. Maybe we should show that parrot one. Can we show the parrot one more time? Because we've got our sound back. Let's do it. We've got to do it properly. So if you missed it at halftime, we did Pat Watches the Internet, and we had one that needed some sound to it, particularly, but we didn't have sound for halftime. But I think we've got it sorted now, so we're going to go and play it one more time. There's a whole bunch of these things going around the internet where people hide behind their towels. They drop them and their pets freak out because they don't know where they're gone. The best one I've ever seen is
hopefully
I'm building this up now. It better work. Is this parrot who was a bit confused? That's the number 10 you're looking for. It was a bit confused to find out about the whole thing. Let's have a listen. Not going to do it, is it?
Yeah, no, we're good.
Yeah, okay, we're good. Let's turn it up. So this is the parrot doing it. There we go. And while we're here, let's do the peekaboo one, because that made no sense at all whatsoever, and then we'll sign off for the night. So this is the other one. Well, I spent too much time on no, not that one, the peekaboo one. You have to go up. This actually says peekaboo. I spend far too much time on TikTok. Have a look at this. All right, Sarah. It is pretty cute.
It's crazy.
On that, we will leave it, and we will actually hopefully be back on. Actually, we're back on Friday, which is tomorrow, with artist Dick Frizzell from 11 a.m. So tune in for that one, and then hopefully we'll be back again for the weekend for the Namibia game. But Paul Cully from stuff.co.nz, thanks for coming and hanging out until 1:15 in the morning.
Thank you.
And Josh Ioane, who's no longer with us, but a big thanks to him. And obviously he's all wrapped up and he's warm bed now, getting ready for training in about 7 or 8 hours, whatever he's got to do. Thank you for you, Josh, coming in, and for anyone joining on either now live or in post via audio or video. Thank you as well, and we'll see you next time. Hooroo.